Hi there. You're listening to English Podcast for Beginners, your friendly guide to learning English step by step. Let's learn, practice, and grow together.
So, if you're listening to this, you probably already have a solid handle on English vocabulary, right? And you can likely, I don't know, ace a grammar quiz. But I'm guessing you're thinking, why do I still feel so stiff? Why do I sound unsure of myself? And why does my message sometimes just land with a thud instead of, making the impression I wanted?
It is the most common hurdle. It really is. For advanced learners, you spend years focusing on what you're saying, the sentence structure, the perfect verb. But communication, it's ultimately judged on how you say it.
Right.
Your tone and your delivery will outweigh perfect syntax almost every single time.
That's exactly why we're here. So our mission today is to cut through all that grammar complexity and dive straight into the three critical communication habits that really govern your success. We're talking politeness, confidence, and clarity. We've pulled together this comprehensive guide that's really designed for the advanced learner, and it promises that mastering just these three areas is the shortcut. The shortcut to building trust, making a good impression, and just feeling more comfortable when you speak.
It really is the difference between being understood and being, truly engaged with. So what we're going to do is give you some simple, actionable techniques you can start applying today.
Okay.
Things that will make your English sound natural, friendly,
Yeah.
and authoritative.
Okay, let's unpack this. We want to get to a point where we're speaking clearly and naturally and just get over that feeling of uncertainty. So let's start with the first pillar, which can be really culturally complicated: politeness.
Yes, politeness, especially in English, is less about your personality, and it's more about using a set of linguistic tools.
Tools.
Tools. If you use them, you sound polite. If you don't, you risk sounding blunt. It doesn't matter what your intention was.
Okay, so what exactly are those tools? Because I know a lot of learners, they just try a direct translation of a request from their own language, and that can cause some friction.
Precisely. That's the main issue.
Yeah.
The core tool here is what we call softening phrases or hedges.
Hedges.
In English, a direct request, even if it's grammatically perfect, it can feel like a demand.
Yeah.
Just think about the difference between, say, send me the report by the end of the day versus,
Okay.
would you mind sending over the report when you have a moment?
Wow, yeah. That second one changes the entire dynamic. It feels like you're respecting the listener's time.
It does. It uses the word would, which turns a command into a question, and it adds that little phrase, when you have a moment,
Right.
which frames the whole thing as, non-urgent, maybe even optional, even if deep down it's required. That is active politeness. You're showing respect through your word choice.
So what are some other ones?
Well, other essential tools would be starting a request with, I was wondering if, or if you're giving an opinion, hedging it with, it seems to me that.
That is so helpful, because I know one common misconception is that being polite means you have to speak weakly, that you should, lower your voice. But wait, I thought volume was a factor. If I speak too loud, won't that sound aggressive?
That's a critical distinction, a really important one. Politeness is about your choice of words. Confidence, on the other hand, is about your delivery volume. If you lower your volume too much trying to sound polite, you end up sacrificing both clarity and confidence. The guide really emphasizes that this is a misconception a lot of learners need to get over.
So the goal is to choose those kind, respectful words, but then deliver them with vocal stability.
Absolutely. The calm tone the material mentions, it isn't quietness. It's a steady, controlled pace and volume. You build trust when your listener feels respected by your language. And that trust is reinforced when your voice doesn't, wobble or fade out at the end. It ensures your intentions are received positively.
Right, so they're not seen as an imposition or a challenge.
Exactly. We were looking at feedback from international business teams, and the number one complaint wasn't grammar mistakes. It was the perceived bluntness of simple requests, just because they were missing these softening phrases.
That's a profound insight. I mean, the subtle difference between "I disagree" and "I see your point, but I was wondering if we could consider" it's huge.
It truly is.
Yeah.
And when you're actively choosing these respectful, more complex phrases, you're actually setting yourself up perfectly for the second skill.
And this is where it gets really powerful. We're moving into confidence. And our source material gives us this great sort of counterintuitive definition. Confidence is not about being perfect. That should be a huge relief to every learner out there.
It really should be. Perfection is impossible. But control, Control is attainable. Confidence is achieved through physical and mental control of your delivery.
And the sources detail some simple physical techniques for that. We don't need, years of voice coaching. We just need 4 immediate steps. Let's start with the most basic one. Consciously slowing down your pace.
Slowing down is crucial. It really is, because it manages your cognitive load. When you're speaking a second language, your brain is processing grammar, vocabulary, cultural norms all at the same time.
Right. It's a lot.
It's a ton. And trying to speak at a native speaker's pace, it just leads to stumbling and mispronunciation. There was a study that showed listeners interpret sudden acceleration or rushing as anxiety.
Regardless of the words being used.
Exactly. So by consciously forcing yourself to slow down by, say, 15%, you're signaling control, even if you're just searching for the right word.
And step 2 is tied right into that. Breathing before you speak.
It sounds so elementary, doesn't it? But it addresses the physical nature of making sound. Good breathing gives you the lung capacity for a steady volume.
Vocal projection.
Vocal projection, yes.
Yeah.
And it buys you that split second to formulate your next thought, which helps prevent those frantic rushes we just talked about.
Okay, and the third technique is about the content itself, using short but clear sentences.
This is a powerful tactic for managing anxiety. Instead of trying to build one huge, complex sentence that might just fall apart halfway through.
Which I'm definitely guilty of.
We all are. Break it into 2 or 3 short, declarative statements. You deliver the information efficiently without getting tangled up.
And the last one is about the auditory signature of control, maintaining a stable rhythm and a steady volume.
Right. If your voice trails off at the end of the sentence, or if your tempo is all over the place, you just sound hesitant. You can have the most brilliant idea in the world, but if it's delivered in a fading whisper, it loses all its authority.
Steadiness is key.
Steadiness is the key auditory signature of command.
I know I'm guilty of that run-on sentence thing. I worry that if I pause, I'll lose my turn to speak. So let's talk about the physical connection here, because the guide ties posture directly to voice strength.
It's just physics, really.
Yeah.
Your voice is powered by your diaphragm. If you slouch, if your chest is collapsed, your diaphragm can't move freely, good posture. Just think of a string pulling up from the crown of your head.
Right, lifting your rib cage.
Exactly. It allows for better breath control, and it literally helps your voice sound stronger and more controlled. And maintaining eye contact does a similar thing. It signals that you're focused on the message, not on the chaos in your own head.
Okay, so we've covered what to do. What should we be actively cutting out of our speech to sound more confident? I think we both know the culprits here.
Oh, we do. We
Yeah.
absolutely have to talk about eliminating filler sounds. Basically. Which is my personal vice, I have to admit.
We all have one.
They just instantly signal a lack of control, a lack of preparation.
So how do you get rid of them? Because when you're thinking in real time, that silence can feel enormous.
The advice is twofold. First, you replace the filler sound with controlled silence. This is what we call the power pause.
Okay.
A short 1 or 2 second break. It tells the listener you're collecting your thoughts deliberately, not panicking. Second, you have to master starting sentences decisively. When you feel that coming, just take a full breath instead and then state your key idea.
If we connect all this to the bigger picture, it really proves that confidence in speaking English is, well, it's a performance skill. It's built on physical control, slowing down, posture, steady volume. It's not just about what's in a grammar textbook.
Exactly. And that discipline leads us perfectly into our third pillar, which makes sure all that politeness and confidence actually gets through to the listener. Clarity.
Focus on clarity. This is the direct path, right, to making sure people understand you easily, which saves them effort.
Yes.
And when the listener doesn't have to struggle to figure out what you're saying, they listen more patiently and they can focus on your actual message.
The less brain power the listener spends decoding sounds, the more they can spend on the nuance of your content.
Okay, let's get mechanical. The guide gave 3 physical actions for articulation. Number 1, opening your mouth fully when you speak.
This is a tactile, physical change you have to make. In English, a lot of key vowels, like the A in father or the O in got, they need a much wider jaw opening than in many other languages.
Like Spanish or Japanese.
Exactly. If you keep your jaw tight, you're compressing the sound space in your mouth, the sounds get muffled, and you lose the distinctions between words. You physically have to give your sounds room to breathe.
That makes the generic advice of open your mouth so much more actionable. It's about maximizing that space for specific English vowels.
It is. Number 2 is carefully shaping your sounds, and this is mostly about consonants. Don't rush or swallow the ends of your words.
Especially T's and B's.
Especially T's and D's, yeah. So many people let the air run out at the end of a word, and that final consonant, which often carries crucial grammatical information, it just vanishes. Articulate them clearly, even if it feels a little overdone at first.
And number 3 is something we've touched on, but it's critical for clarity. Pausing in the right places. Segmenting your thoughts.
A pause is the linguistic equivalent of punctuation. It's not just for taking a breath, it's signaling to the listener, comma here, period here.
Ah, I like that.
It organizes your ideas and gives the listener a moment to process what you just said before you move on.
Now, the sources also talk about something more subtle, something often overlooked. Stress and rhythm. Why is English rhythm so tricky for so many learners?
Because English is it's a stress time language. This is a really crucial technical point.
Okay.
Contrast that with languages like French or Spanish, which are syllable timed. In those languages, every syllable gets roughly the same amount of time.
Right.
In English, we punch certain words or syllables, we emphasize them, and then we drastically reduce and flatten the vowels in unimportant words like a or the or to make room for those stressed words.
So if you try to give equal weight to every single syllable, you end up sounding robotic, even if the individual words are perfect.
Exactly. Mastering where that stress falls and learning how to make those reductions is what makes your speech sound significantly more natural. And what's fascinating is that the correct placement of pauses and stress, it affects comprehension as much as, if not more than, individual word pronunciation.
So the framework of the sentence helps the listener, not just the individual bricks.
It's the whole system working together.
Yeah. Okay, let's bring this all home. We've got our 3 pillars: politeness, confidence, and clarity. The source material provided these lists of useful phrases that are specifically designed to incorporate all 3 at once. They're inherently polite, they're phrased for clear articulation, and they're meant to be delivered with a steady rhythm.
Those sample sentences, the ones designed for repetition, that's where you put theory into practice. You're building muscle memory for communication, not just learning facts.
Right.
You need to automate the delivery of phrases like, if I could just jump in quickly, or my apologies, could you repeat that last point?
And for you, the learner, listening to this, what are the specific practice tips the guide gave? What should you do when this deep dive is over?
Well, the guide laid out a pretty detailed learning loop. First, and this is probably the hardest but most essential step, record your own voice for self-assessment.
You have to hear what other people hear.
You have to. It's the only way to really identify where your volume phase or where you speed up or where all those filler words creep in.
Because what we think we sound like internally is rarely the external reality.
It's almost never the reality. Second, they recommend a technique called shadowing. Shadowing native speakers.
What's shadowing exactly?
It's not just listening. It's repeating simultaneously with the speaker, almost like an echo. It forces you to absorb the musicality, the pace, the rhythm, all without actively thinking about vocabulary. It just builds that natural English flow.
You're mimicking the performance, not just the content.
Precisely. And third, you have to actively practice these polite expressions and physical techniques in real life. Lots of varied situations. Don't save your control just for the big presentation.
Right. Use it when ordering a coffee.
Yes. Or asking a colleague for directions, or just chatting with a friend. That immediate application is what hardwires the habit.
So what does this all mean? We started this deep dive talking about that frustration of knowing the grammar but lacking comfort and impact. And it seems like we found that the key ingredients aren't more flashcards, but more control.
The core takeaways are really simple. Use those specific, polite expressions and softening phrases. You'll get immediate respect and friendliness.
Speak with a steady pace, a consistent volume, and a clear rhythm to instantly project control and confidence.
And actively shape your words. Use your full jaw aperture and segment your thoughts with deliberate pauses for just undeniable clarity.
You don't need perfect grammar to sound fantastic in English.
You really don't. Tone, careful word choice, and controlled pronunciation. Those are the essential ingredients for success and comfort.
So go out and speak with control, not caution. Focus on the how, not just the what.
You know, this raises a really important question for me. If control and posture and rhythm, these elements that we usually associate with stage performance, with acting or music, if those are the primary drivers of confidence and clarity in language learning, what does this tell us about effective communication in general? Should we be applying these same physical and vocal disciplines to every important conversation we have, regardless of the language? Maybe we need to realize that communication is ultimately a performance discipline.
That's a captivating thought.
Something to consider the next time you really need to make sure your message is heard clearly and confidently.
A truly captivating thought. We hope this deep dive helps you feel much more comfortable and authoritative when you speak English, starting today.